It was not that long ago that citizens living in first world countries were persuaded that tobacco inhalation was not only not dangerous to their health, but was, in fact, healthy. This pervasive disinformation resulted in chronic ill health and incalculable deaths for millions of people around the world. We may ask ourselves how it was even allowed to happen, yet the reality is it was led by the powerful and influential tobacco industry and was a hugely lucrative business, worth millions, if not billions in profits, so paid dividends to promote falsehood. Vested interests superseded the health and well-being of people to their collective long-term detriment. The use of their own industry doctors willing to sell their soul and profession for their 10 pieces of silver embedded this false narrative. It was effective because most people only look at the headlines and few beyond it. Because medical experts were wheeled out to perpetuate the illusion, people thought it must be true. But it wasn't true. It was dangerous propaganda which destroyed lives. We now face another wholesale propaganda campaign which is destroying countless lives and perpetuated by vested financial and ideological interest groups. So-called experts are being wheeled out to convince us of a false narrative, and many people, including our governments, are falling for it hook, line and sinker. In this instance, it starts with the proposition that domestic abuse is a gendered crime, a crime committed overwhelmingly against female victims by male perpetrators. This false assertion has been challenged twice by the UK Statistics Authority based on factual evidence, ONS and police data, yet the sensationalist headlines continue unabated. The legendary Erin Pitsey, a global expert in domestic abuse and founder of Refuge, the first in the world, was ostracised and ejected from the very organisation she set up for daring to speak this truth, which was that out of the first 100 women who came through their refuge doors, 62 were as violent, if not more violent, than the men they'd left behind. She and a team had to pin little notes on the children to remind their mothers not to beat them when angered. By stating her simple truth, this amazingly courageous and compassionate woman received multiple death threats. Her dog was killed. She was forced to flee the country. Despite her many years saving countless women and children, her incredible legacy and immeasurable contribution to our society has been deliberately smeared and tarnished, libelled and defamed, truth and goodness extinguished. Erin understood this simple fact. Abuse is transgenerational. Those who grow up in violent and dysfunctional households are themselves at risk of becoming either victims or perpetrators. Without therapeutic intervention, the cycle of abuse continues. Tragically, the female perpetrator support units that she set up to help female abusers were immediately shut down when the new CEO took over the reins, because female perpetrator support units didn't fit the narrative that women should only ever be seen as victims, never as perpetrators. Tragically, for the almost 800,000 male victims of domestic abuse in the UK and their children, the all-female victim narrative is now firmly embedded deep within our collective psyche. And part of this is to deny the reality of parental alienation. Why? Because it's more likely to affect fathers, since mothers are more likely to have the power and control of residency. Yet parental alienation is a non-gendered issue, and the narrative which positions it only as a tool for abusive fathers to re-victimize protective mothers appears as compelling as that of the tobacco industry. Any who question it using facts and evidence can look forward to being attacked on social media. Even female survivors like myself, almost dying from life-threatening domestic abuse, yet understand it originated from mental health issues, not patriarchy, is still fair game for refusing to comply. It's no wonder most people remain silent, but within that silence is complicity. And those who promote falsehood in order to further their income, ideology, or usually both, are committing a crime against humanity itself. Their false narrative enables alienating parents to continue causing serious long-term psychological harm to their children, and paradoxically ongoing grief and trauma to alienated mothers too. Presumably their acceptable collateral damage in ensuring parental alienation is not included anywhere within our Domestic Abuse Act, despite being the most brutal form of post-separation abuse to ever befall a safe and loving parent. Have you ever listened to the tragic story of an adult who was forced to relinquish a much-loved parent as a child in order to keep their other parent happy? We have. It's uniquely heartbreaking. Nor is it rare, as suggested by the vocal parental alienation deniers. An independent survey was undertaken on our behalf by the former Deputy Convener for Equality and Human Rights among young people in the Scottish Youth Parliament. A quarter of the respondents stated they'd had to tell one parent they did not love them in order to keep their other parent happy. And according to research by Public Health Wales, parental separation is the most common cause of adverse childhood experiences, commonly known as ACEs. Where the critical level of 4 or more ACEs applied, these children do not have the support of both their parents in 85% of cases. Yet in contrast, for children with no ACEs, 82% of them had the support of both parents. So facts clearly show that children need both safe parents. Tragically, for many children in the UK, when their parents' relationship ends, this doesn't happen. In the turmoil of relationship breakdown, some parents' own emotional or psychological state blinds them to their children's needs. A parent's need for continual validation or revenge overrides their focus on the healthy, ongoing needs of their children. And the psychological manipulation of a child, which can quickly lead to the outright rejection of a previously warm, loving relationship with one of their parents, fractures a vital attachment bond and can create an emotional vortex many children never recover from. We've interviewed alienated children survivors, and they all recount a similar and tragic story. As children, they were falsely told their other parent didn't love them, had abandoned them, had left them for a new family, was replacing them with a new baby. These and many other alienating comments made them feel worthless and unloved. They talked about the impact of this while growing up and often referenced years of therapy to overcome their trauma, which may have included suicide ideation, drug and alcohol abuse, low self-esteem, anger and frustration, extreme guilt for seemingly rejecting a safe and loving parent, and trust issues because a parent who they trusted had deceived them. The extreme ideological narrative is one which minimises the vital role of fathers, yet millennia of evolution, and more specifically 10 years of robust research by the UK's leading evolutionary anthropologist Dr. Anna Makin from Oxford University, finds the attachment bond is as strong for fathers as it is for mothers. Evolution has invested heavily in shaping men to be fathers with measurable biological, neurological and physical changes which bond them closely to their children. They provide unique benefits that are of great value not only to their children but to our wider society. Having two safe parents is always in a child's best interest. Both offer a unique additional protective layer to keep their children safe, as do the wider family of loving grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins on both sides. Yet many good fathers have had false allegations of abuse levelled against them. We can prove it. The Believe All Women mantra results in safe fathers, not only abusive ones, ejected from their family home and the lives of their children, and threatened with jail if they so much as send a card to their own children in the interim. And the biggest problem with this default societal response, when two parents simultaneously claim abuse, it is the fathers who are always rejected. And on more than one occasion, on quite a few in fact, this has resulted in the death of their children because no one believed them. According to serious case reviews, i.e. factual evidence from coroners, more children have actually been killed by mothers than biological fathers. Does this make mothers, like myself, more inherently dangerous to children? Of course not. Most parents of either gender would lay down their lives to protect their children. What it does, however, is shine a bright light on the positioning of safe fathers as a threat, and hammers another nail, literally, into the coffins of innocent children who pay the price for this with their life. Here is one of them, told for the first time by one of the most loving and considerate fathers I've ever met. His story is the worst we've ever recorded. We've worked with many bereaved parents, and their stories are always tragic. This story, is beyond heartbreaking. He lost his child because no one believed him when he warned them that his child was in danger. All the alienating behaviours he experienced affect tens of thousands of loving fathers and mothers throughout the UK and throughout the world. Yet Matthew, his family, and most especially beautiful little Archie, were failed by authorities who had a statutory duty to protect them, yet failed. They are speaking out now to try to prevent it happening ever again, because it's our collective duty and our moral responsibility to speak out against any narrative which harms people. We need to get our compassion and love and care back into our society, and we need to see parental alienation and the behaviours it represents retained in the guidance notes of our Domestic Abuse Act 2021. Anything less would be unforgivable. Thank you.